Good afternoon, welcome back or welcome to our vlog. So last week we tried something new with the Agnista cards, which is honestly a very fun heavy combat deck that I really enjoyed playing. But this week we're trying something called oldish. Let's check it out. That's right, we're taking Orcust with the Horus engine. So this week, ideally, I just kind of want to focus on learning the existing Orcust cards and what their effects actually are properly. Because last time I took them, I made so many misplays, it wasn't even funny. So before the new set comes out, which now has been pushed back to August, I believe. Ignore the messiness behind me. Yeah, I just want to learn exactly how to play these cards and realistically what I can do with them, because it is a fun deck. But it is the week before Nationals, so people are bringing their A games, so this is really going to be a trial by fire. But on a side note, to all of you guys who watch this vlog who are going to Nationals, good luck, and honestly I hope you smash it. But with that being said, let's get into round one. So round one we get paired up against Rob, which means we have a very chilled but competitive round one, and I am A-OK with a chilled nice round one, which still makes you think. So Rob starts us off by activating one of his cards, but we do shoot off that more charmy, which for once actually sticks. It does not get bashed or anything along those lines. But Rob's actually a really good and competitive player here, so he knows ways around this thing, and he just chooses not to play into it. He does set up some layered interruption, and which you'll see here. He's using all the new Diabell cards. He sends as wanted to search, is it Philia, I believe it's called. And yeah, so Rob just chooses not to special summon from the extra deck at all here. And of course I have to double check what this Philia does. Honestly, he just mainly wants it in the grave so he can manage it to boost all his Diabell's monsters by 500, but it does also give him a search. So, you know, for once it's where Droll would have actually came in more handy rather than the more charmy, but it is what it is. Like, it does slow Rob down, but you know, he's got the Spell Trap in the grave, and there we go. So both his Diabells are on 3k, and Rob obviously can now thrust. Yeah, our hand's not terrible, so if he does decide to go Talents and rip a card, we might still be able to do something, but it does really depend. But Rob decides to actually thrust for that trap card that can book a main a special summon monster, so that does hurt us a little bit, but it is what it is. But as you'll see here, the layered interruption is actually enough to put us on standstill, and Rob is able to clean this up in turn 3. So I'm not going to bore you to death and just talk you over everything, so enjoy watching Rob dance around my hand traps and dance around my abilities. So in game 2 we were able to set up this board, which Rob just was not able to play through, putting us into that all-important game number 3. Now we open amazingly, and in the draw phase Rob activates Unwanted, which we chain with the Mulchami. This time though it doesn't stick as Rob drops the Ash. We're happy with that though, because even though we don't get the draws, we do still have 2 additional hand traps of our own, and it just means there's less chance of Rob ashing us on our turn. So Rob goes ahead, ditches the Droll, which is big for us because Droll kills us, and to summon that Witch, which we hit with the Imperm to stop him getting the Deception. Just because Rob now has 2 cards in hand, so we're hoping he doesn't have much gas left. He sets a card and passes. We top deck the Foolish Burial, which is great, but we start off with that Gearsu, sending the Harp Horror to grave. From there we use the Gearsu effect to give us both a token. I, however, put Rob's token in defense mode. Why the hell did we do that? Who knows, but we've got to remember, let's stick that token in attack, and you know, maybe we can actually swing with it. But we put our token straight into that Link Spider, and then we summon Nightmare by banishing that Harp Horror. So there's no point using that Foolish Burial just yet until we need to. Let's extend with our cards first, see if that last card in hand is an Nibiru, and if it is, then we've got the Foolish Burial to hopefully keep going from there. We do go ahead and use the Nightmare effective Foolish World Wand, and then we send the World Wand to summon back the Nightmare. From there we use the Galatea effect, shuffling back the World Wand in order to set the Babble. So here we are digging for that Babble, and there it is. And now we activate the Babble, turning all of our Orcust cards into quick effects, which is amazing. We then go off into the Longirsu from here, and then we use that Foolish Burial, sending the Symbol Skeleton from our deck, because from here we're pretty safe that it's not Nibiru, because you wouldn't want to risk Longirsu on the field where it's pointing to your monster if you had that Nib already in hand. But then we go ahead, we bring back the Galatea by banishing the Skeleton, then we activate the Longirsu, shuffling back 2 to send that Witch to the grave. But that just means our Longirsu cannot attack this turn, which honestly, not an issue. Rob here does attempt to activate Witch to sending the token, but it is pointed out that you can't send the token for cost because it has to go to grave. So Rob then changes his mind, decides not to activate the Witch, which is absolutely fine. And from here we use the Galatea for the Dingirsu. Dingirsu targets, well, it doesn't target, but we go to send that back row, which Rob attempts to summon a White Forest monster from deck, and we just ash out. We don't want him getting any form of recursion going whatsoever. So it is really unfortunate for Rob, but great for us that we have just opened all the right hand traps, and we've been able to actually lay him out at the right time. But one thing I cannot do is basic math. So here I go into access code, and I use the access code effect, banishing that to just get rid of the token, whereas if I left it in tap mode it wouldn't matter. And I swung with both monsters thinking that was game. However, I can't count for shit. That's only 7,900, not 8,000, meaning that Rob is left in this game with only 100 life points, 1 card in hand, and whatever he top decks. So from here, Rob, we pass for turn, because as much as there are other things I could go into, such as IP, etc., there's nothing I want to really put out more than the Dingirsu having that protection. So we just pass turn, Rob draws for turn, he has a look at his hand, he has a look at his grave, he has a really good think about it, but in the end decides ultimately he hasn't got it, today's not his day, and we take this game 2-1. So we took that round 2-1 against Rob, and this was Rob on his White Forest deck, and honestly I think this is the 4th time me and Rob have ever played against each other. The first time when he was on his Magispectors and I was on Chimera, and over the course, with both our decks changing and evolving, I believe it is the 4th time we've ever played, and if that is the case, that means that I've had 2 wins, he's had 2 wins, and I certainly look forward to seeing who wins duel number 5 down the road. But with that being said, let's move on to round 2. So round 2 and 3 went the same way as each other, which was a 2-1 loss. However, it was against Wally on White Forest and then Ryan on his live twin Fiendsmith respectively. So taking a game in both is pretty good. Into the break with a record of X2, and after the break we got paired up against a new player who was on a 60 card Blue Eyes pile, which, fair enough, I'm excited to see what you can do with it. So let's go check out round 4 against a new player called Kane. So Kane won the dice roll but still chose for me to go first, and we start off by activating our Amseti, ditching itself and a copy of Orcust Nightmare in order to search for a copy of King Sarcophagus and then to draw a card. We then activate said King Sarcophagus and summon the Amseti back from our grave. We then use the King Sark effect to ditch a card and forge a horror monster, on this case of course grabbing that Happy and sending another copy of King Sark. We summon back the Happy and then go into our Zombie Vampire. The Zombie Vampire mills Gear Suit and Heart Horror, and we summon the Gear Suit, which we then foolish off the skeleton. Now from here we act. So there's our mills, as you can see, there's a copy of Gear Suit, there's a copy of Heart Horror, so all good from there. We chose to summon back that Gear Suit obviously, and then the Gear Suit triggers here, sending the Skelly to the grave. So having a good think about what I wanted to send there before I did it, and then from here we use the Heart Horror. And from here we decide to just get another skeleton from grave, since we already have Nightmare into rotation. We may as well get both out already. And then from here we do decide just to put them both straight into that Galatea, and then we use the Galatea effect to shuffle back in order to go ahead and set our copy of Babel. So Nightmare now activates here, sending a copy of the Wild Wand to the grave, and then the Wild Wand summons back the Nightmare to the field, as you will see right here. And then from here we decide just to stick everything into Zoroboros, because we can, I do think about Link 3, but then I have a proper think about this. I think Blue Eyes with the trap card and does resurrect things, and Maiden that can come back from the grave time after time after time. I just want to get that stuff banished. I don't want to be dealing with it constantly every turn, and just with the fact of the second skeleton already in grave, allowing us to spec something back to proc that Zoroboros at any point, it's just too nice to pass up. But then we do use one of the skeleton effects to bring back the Galatea, which we put into Ding, and then overlay and get that skeleton back in as material. Sorry, the Wild Wand, not the skeleton. From here we pass over to Kane. Kane sets 2 cards, and obviously as a new player he's not 100% sure on his sequencing, because setting cards before doing monster effects and whatnot could be costly, especially when your opponent has something on the field that can banish everything. And from here he goes ahead and activates his Dictator of D. I did tell him to cover up his other cards so I can read his Dictator. Just because, believe it or not, this isn't one I'm overly familiar with, so it's a pretty cool effect. You can foolish a Blue Eyes in order to special summon it, which is pretty cool. I do like that. So, excuse me. So he then uses that Dictator of D, as you'll see here, to go into the Link 1. I just had to explain that that extra monster zone is used due to my monster, and we're just going over how link zones work, that it's not a case of we get 2 each, there is 2 between us. But yeah, so then he goes into Spirit, the Spirit searches for a spell, and we do roll him. I'm sorry, there might be some people who are saying, oh, he's a new player, you should take it easy, but no, I'm in the mindset of, you know, I'm going to give him the same respect as I would anyone else and use the cards I have to my full advantage. Here though, I do allow him to change this play because he is a new player, and I allow him to move his blue eyes to the zone that the Zorboros doesn't point to. So that is something I'm willing to let a new player get away with, not using my hand traps that I have drew. But from here, he does now use the field spell to banish another blue eyes because it has to send a normal monster. The power is blue eyes up by 800, and I see that as the best time to trigger my Zorboros by summoning the Girsu from the grave with the skeleton effect, as you'll see in a moment. So then from here, the Girsu was able to chain to the Zorboros as well, banishing everything on the field, and Girsu sends a Harp Horror to the grave. So it's when he equips the ultimate, that's when I decide to do it, just to get that out of rotation as well. So then by sending that Harp Horror, we now have our grave stacked and filled with decent grave effects, ready to go. From there, Kane does just pass on an open board because there's not really a lot more he can do there. So from there, Kane wasn't able to amount any form of comeback. We just kept this field empty, and then we just cleaned it up on our turn. Game 2, we went second, and in our turn we managed to get into Topologic Bomber Dragon, which funny enough isn't once per turn. Who thought, let's give this guy a board wipe and not make it once per turn? Because honestly, with Orcust's ability to spam the field, it made triggering that thing 2 to 3 times a turn incredibly easy, and because of that, we took that round 2-0. So there we have it. We are going into the last round 2-2, and we are up against Adam. And for those of you who don't watch this vlog often or doesn't know, Adam is a very, very competitive player. He is absolutely somebody who you can learn so much from. So it's always a pleasure to play against someone like Adam, just because that wealth of experience, you can't go into a game against a player like this and not learn something. Even if you don't want to, even if you're trying your best not to, you're still going to learn something. That is how good of a player Adam is, and just how well he does with describing and explaining how his card effects work. It is truly, truly a knowledgeable experience to play against somebody like Adam. So with that being said, let's see how we do against Adam on Mitsurugi Raziel. Okay, so Adam wins the dice roll and starts us off with an Ice Raziel, which then he follows it up with the X Raziel after, of course, he gets a search. Now, I am sitting on an imperm, but I am trying to hold it for that, for cross, or not cross, duo drive, that's the key. But here he goes into IP, which I really wasn't expecting. That kind of threw me off. Adam then summons Sword, and I just thought here, he can't have too many more extenders in his hand. He's used like 2 or 3 names already. So let's imperm this and let's see what happens. And yeah, the imperm actually stopped this turn, which was fantastic for us. So we start off by sending the Girsu, sending that Harp Horror to the grave, and then Girsu makes us both a token, and this time I do remember to put it in attack mode so we can try and get some damage, which is wonderful. We then put Babble onto the field, I'm skipping ahead there. We go into the Link Spider, then we use the Bestial to banish the X-Raziel, and then of course there is the Babble. We then use the Harp Horror, which is met with an Ash, which does actually hurt more than what I thought. And then we go into the Galatea. From here we use the Galatea effect, and I got greedy. You can see here, we shuffle back, we set the one that sends a Orcust monster for cost to draw 2. So Orcust Wild Legacy. So first of all, we go into the Dingirsu, sending that sword to the graveyard just to get it off the field, and then we risk it all for this draw 2. And the draw 2 is not amazing. Bear in mind, I've got an Ash in hand already, and we go ahead and we draw an Ash and an Ibiru. So that's really not helping us, especially with that Happy in hand as well. So we've essentially got 4 cards in hand that we can do nothing with. So all we do now, and we do get drolled as well, which stops the Bestial from coming out. So all we can do now is just poke that IP and pass turn. Okay, so our turn was not fantastic there, as you saw. This is the kind of perk of recording your games, is that you do get to look things back over and actually think, is there a way I could have done that better? And me personally, yes, absolutely I could have done that better. So what I could have actually done, so I have noted this down, is was not to activate Galaterra effect, because at the end of the day, the draw 2 in that situation really wasn't going to do us much anyway. But what we could have done was use the Magnemite to banish our own Gearsu rather than one of Adam's monsters, then go into the long Gearsu, shuffle back both of our banished monsters, sending his sword to the grave at that stage. And then from there, we go into the Ding, sending the IP, and then we punch the token direct with Ding. Now, is that turn still fantastic? Absolutely not. No. However, what would have happened there is Adam wouldn't have been able to have drolled us, which means that we would have got the resolution of getting the Druis one in the end phase, which then meant I could have then banished something from Adam's grave when he attempted to activate something, to give us a form of interruption to go with the Ash Blossom that we already had in hand. And our end board would have still had the Dingirsu for that destruction, because he was on Mitsurugi Raziel. So if he was able to trigger that Regeki type effect, at least Dingirsu could protect against that. So yeah, hindsight's 2020, that would have been a much better way to play our turn. But with that being said, it's now Adam's turn, so let's watch him. Let's be fair about it, very easily pick apart our board. So yeah. So Adam starts his turn with Cross, as you'll see in just a moment, and then he attempts to use Cross's effect to shuffle to put 2 on the bottom of the deck and draw a card. So we do Ash that in the hopes that he doesn't have any other real extenders in his hand. However, he does then go ahead and normal summon that Aramasa, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, giving Adam access to the full Mitsurugi plays. And on summon 3, we see the Duo Drive come down, and thanks to Cross being a negate at activation, it makes that Nibiru in our hand absolutely fucking useless. Adam, even on summon 5, looks across the table and goes, "Do you have anything?" And I'm sitting there staring at Nib in hand thinking, yes, but I can't use it now. I do track it down later in the turn just because fuck it, I may as well. But with that being said, I'm going to shut my mouth so you guys can sit back and enjoy watching Adam play Raziel Mitsurugi, because he is damn good at it. Now, we did take actually game 2, which was absolutely amazing. We went first after losing game 1, and we set up our board through very minimal interruption of a few hand traps that Adam drew, but thankfully for us, they weren't impactful hand traps against that type of deck. But that meant at game 3, Adam got to go first, and I opened 5 Orcust monsters. And for anyone who's played Orcust knows, that's not what you want to see, especially before the new Link one comes out. So game 3 essentially became the quickest ever game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think I've ever played. Adam went full combo, set his board up, I looked at my hand and I set a monster and pass. Adam has obviously no issue dealing with that and just killing me on the next turn. So we did end this week at locals with a record of 2-3. Now next week is nationals, so next week's locals is going to be a little quieter. There's not going to be as many players there, so I think maybe a 3-round week next week if we're lucky. But like again, all of you going to nationals, good luck. I'm cheering you on, and I hope you smash it. But as for those who aren't, I'll see you next week at Geek Retreat, hopefully with something new.